You're listening to the 4-Phase Cycle Podcast with your hosts, Dr. Alex and Megan of Zesty Ginger. If you're looking to naturally balance hormones and learn how to work with your body instead of against it, you've definitely come to the right place. As a duo of an integrative MD and a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner and best friends, we use the 4 phases of the female cycle in combination with functional lab work and mindset practices to transform the lives of the women we work with.
We also have a whole lot of fun along the way. If you're new around here, it's best to start with season 1 before jumping around and plan to roll up your sleeves. Showing up for ourselves and enjoying our lives is what good health is all about. Just a quick reminder though, this information is not intended to diagnose, manage, or treat disease. Always consult with your doctor before making changes.
Hello, Dr. Alex here with you. Welcome back to the podcast. So happy that you're here for this mini series. We're on part 5. We are tracking along with the different types of patterns of, these are habitual thoughts, emotions, behaviors, and kind of personality traits. As we talked about, these are conditioned personality traits. This is not who you are, but oftentimes these are ways of thinking, feeling, and therefore behaving where people get stuck. So we're going through these prototypes, right? It's rare that someone will only fit one. Often we'll have 1 or 2 dominant ones and then others that we relate to. And that is because really most of us are dealing with who we are and an overlaid who we are that has been conditioned. And that's based off trauma, coping mechanisms, our upbringing, the interpretations we had of that. And that's why the same things can happen to 2 different people and they will create completely different outcomes and realizations and act completely different from that space. And so it's really important that we begin to see these patterns. The way that I talk about them is really I take them more to the extremes of their expression because it's easiest to talk about in that format. But please understand that within most of us, because there's a push and pull between some of these, we can have overlaps, overlays, and it can express itself in different behaviors and different outcomes that then are keeping us from the goals and the outcomes that we really want to experience in life. This is the great health, this is the good energy, high libido, nice hair, great skin, ovulation, fertility is in check, feeling safe, feeling comfortable, feeling confident, trusting ourselves, being in touch with our intuition and our gut instincts, all of these things. When we have an awareness of some of the patterns that we have been conditioned with, it allows us to find the resources that support ourselves through these. It's very important to note, these are not things that we note about ourselves and then do nothing about. If we're not willing to address these things and look for resources to undo these patterns and step into an empowered place, we don't even need to be looking at the patterns, right? If you aren't planning on doing anything about it, you don't need to listen to these podcast episodes. The only reason we care about the awareness of what we're doing and what patterns we're using is so that we can build out our toolkit and support ourselves with what we're trying to accomplish. If you are doing a coping mechanism or some kind of pattern, it is because at some point, in some way, it works for you or has worked for you. Now, currently, it may have run its course and is now creating problems, but in the past, somehow it kept you safe, it kept you from harm, it allows you to belong, and it allows you to function in life. Therefore, none of these are intended to be used against yourself. And if you listen to parts 3 and 4, you already heard that is exactly how we get into some of these patterns, right? So that is not the goal here. This is simply awareness so that we know what resources we need. Because supported, when we actually have the things that we need and our needs are met, and we are moving towards the values that we set for ourselves, that's what feels good. That's what creates change. That's what gets us out of these patterns. So this series is only for self-identification and awareness, so that when you head to the 5-day challenge starting next week and you go sign up for it, that's zestyginger.com/habit. It's down in the show notes. There's a direct link. Then you are ready to go with the resource, looking for the resources, and your subconscious mind can use that 5-day experience to really get what you need from it and to actually support yourself in the most powerful way for you. And really the way that Megan and I set that up is, that's why we called it the effortless brain-based habit change challenge, because the whole point is that we're going to be teaching and using subconscious reprogramming tools to help you do that with the least amount of effort possible, because everyone, quite frankly, is tired and a little burnout and a little frustrated. The last 2 years, if not more, have been tough. And we hear you, and that's exactly, we always respond to that kind of thing. When people need different resources, you can betcha Megan and I are going to be coming out with them, because that's how we live. We don't leave ourselves unresourced, because that's how it creates these kind of patterns. And these kind of patterns, when we get stuck on them, really undermine things like self-confidence, trusting ourselves, feeling empowered. And that's why it's so important to first be aware of them and seek out the resources that support us in not needing these limited things again. And this one, I just said the word because it was on my mind, the limited dreamer, is a really common pattern. So a hallmark of the limited dreamer is that you're basically not willing to acknowledge what you really want and think that you can have it. The limited dreamer tends to be very practical. These are the people that have kept their world relatively stable, and there's some components of that feel very comfortable. Right? The limited dreamer is different from some of the ones that we talked about previously, like parts 3 and 4, because often the limited dreamer is someone that is so focused on their active problems, they are often in effect, right? They're not at the cause of their transformation and their healing and their expansion. They're in the effect of it. And therefore, the limited dreamer is almost always in project management mode. And they're pretty good at checking off the checklist and the check boxes in that, right? And a lot of times, these are the people that feel a little bit like gerbils on a hamster wheel. It's kind of the day in and day out. This comes up, it's small, I got it. This comes up, it's small, I got it. This is a little bit bigger, it's going to take me a little bit longer. But the experience is a little bit like Groundhog's Day. Now, because of this, one of the things that's really common in someone who's in the pattern of a limited dreamer is that this is another pattern that keeps us from taking actions to make big changes and transformation. Now, it's not always big drastic things that create transformation. Sometimes it's day in and day out things, but the limited dreamer won't do that anyways, because the limited dreamer does not see that those things are an actual potential for them, right? I could never feel like a babe. I could never wear that bathing suit. I can't stand in front of who am I to say anything that requires a podcast? Who the heck's going to read my book? I still am overweight, or I still have health problems. Those are the kind of thoughts that the limited dreamer is having. Now that means that within the slice of pie of the life experience that you see yourself in, like in the limited box that you have assigned, within there, things are possible. So more than likely, if you're aligning with the limited dreamer, is that you do have goals and you are hitting them. There are there's a position open in your company that's a lateral move. Well, yep, you move, you do it. There's a higher position at another job that you can apply for. That one, nah, I'm not going to do that one. Probably won't get it. Right? Or, hey, yeah, this provider values themselves at $300. They'll $300. I'm a $300 value person. That's what I deserve to invest in myself because that's my value and that's the choice that they make. Right? Someone who's more resourced and can provide greater value is not an option because that's for other kind of people. Only certain type of people work with that person. That's not me. Right? And so it's a very sneaky, often pattern of self-sabotage that says maybe other people, and maybe it's a possibility, but this is the buffet that I have to choose from, and that's what it is. Because of that, there tends to be a big focus on the problems that pop up in life, and the limited dreamer, because they don't change how they think or feel and take action that drastically. They stay within the box that they know already. They generally feel like they have the same kinds of problems come up. Maybe they look exactly the same, and sometimes this is a new face, same problem kind of deal, right? Why am I always dating the same guy? Why do I always have the same provider experience? Why do the supplements always go like this? Why does therapy always go like this? Right? It's just kind of a rinse and repeat because the playground that you're playing in as the limited dreamer is smaller than often you are as an expanded, soul of who you are and showing up here. And that is where the experience of then taking the problems at face value and reacting to them rather than saying, wait a second, this thing keeps happening, this thing keeps popping up, I keep staying in the same place even though I say I want to make more money, I don't. That's the kind of thing that often will alert us to the fact that this is happening, right? When we go to a higher perspective, we're going to talk about the Empire State Building phenomenon in the 5-day challenge, so make sure to go listen to that and sign up for that and get ready to listen when it comes out. But essentially, unless the limited dreamer can find resources to change their perspective and have a higher look at the playground that they're in and where the openings are to break out of that, they will stay exactly where they are. Now, for these kind of people then, the emotions and the physical body is telling them that they're in a smaller box than they are created for. And that is why the limited dreamer often feels very uneasy and is very nervous. These are people who often feel like, gosh, there's always like something. There's just something else and I don't know what it is. I just don't, when is that going to happen? When is this going to happen? There's a big fear of the unknown because the unknown isn't in the same box, but you also have the experience of our emotions and our physical body let us know when there's a discrepancy in reality. So when we are meant for something greater, staying small begins to feel more and more uncomfortable. So a hallmark of the limited dreamer, if you know that you have some dreams that feel really big and you're sitting on them and you are starting to feel in your day-to-day life like, I don't even know what's wrong. I'm like, I'm not happy. I'm restless. So, the things that used to work aren't working anymore. Those supplements now just don't feel as good. That therapist is annoying me. This program I'm in, I don't like what they're saying. That's how you know you're in the limited dreamer role. It's time to go. It's time that the resources here will always be focused on getting a higher perspective to see where the openings are to change and to change the experience of the thoughts and therefore the emotions created. And from thoughts and emotions, that's where we act from, right? If the emotion is paralyzing fear, the action will not flow. It doesn't matter how much you beat yourself up. Your brain is not going to put you in a situation that is inherently unsafe for you. It's also not going to keep you in a situation that doesn't work. That's why in the limited dreamer, oftentimes people are like, I've been in this relationship and it worked for a long time and it just isn't feeling good, but this is what I'm doing. This is what I signed up for. This is what it is. This is where I'm stuck. Or this is my job. This is the business I created. This is how you do business. This is how often I have to post. This is how often I have to podcast. If I'm not getting these views on social media, no one's ever going to buy, right? The box is very, very small. And therefore the actions that we take we're always sort of like, gosh, I have to stick to this new thing, rather than saying, I'm the creator of my business. I can send emails, write social media posts, create podcasts, however I blessed want. That's a very, very different perspective, but it also requires a lot of sovereignty, a lot of self-confidence, and a lot of self-power that is often missing in the limited dreamer's perspective. They don't believe that about themselves, therefore they don't see the opportunities that are often right smack in front of them. What's cool about the limited dreamer is that because they're primed for expansion, their system's telling them that they're playing it small. Once they have the courage to do that, the transformation happens so rapidly. Because their system has been priming them for it, all their experiences to date have been letting them know that they're meant for something greater. And then boom, all of a sudden when they're ready and they actually take the action, the transformation happens very, very rapidly after that, which is awesome. You know, it really just says, in an instant, I can change my perspective, see things differently, take the opportunity, and wake up to a completely different life, which is what we all kind of want, right? We all want the life that we want as fast as possible. Well, I'm going to tell you this. You can't keep thinking and feeling the same things then, because if you're feeling and thinking the same things, you haven't changed your perspective. That's kind of how you know. It's the same experience, and so you looked at it from maybe a slightly different way, but you got the same thing. How we know we're leaving the limited dreamer role is that we no longer see things the same way. It's not post on social media because that's how it is, or stay married because you're supposed to do this for the kids, or stay in this relationship because you've been together 16 years. Those things begin to say, yes, that is the truth up until now. And this is what maybe that person said. That is valid. But my choice, whether I do that or not, or see it in the same way, is ultimately up to me. And that is where it doesn't take that many shifts in perspective to start living a completely life experience. Now, if you haven't ever done this, you may not have the experience to know that that's true. And so from that perspective, we have to look at people walking the path that we want to walk and say, what is that experience? I'm going to hang my hat on that for now until I can get there myself and see it from my own perspective. And of course, that's super important, because when you're the limited dreamer, the trick is that sometimes you don't know where you're limited. And that's where Megan and I, you've heard us say this. This is just a thing that we do in our life, is we invest in ourselves and work with coaches and work with people who point this out to us, and we follow them as best we can, given that they're walking what we want to walk. But at each point we're asking, is that the same path for me, or do I need to find a way to apply my resources, get my needs met that differs from what that person has? It becomes a lot less about following and more about establishing your own leadership opportunities And this is not, a lot of times people think, well, I don't have a team, I don't have a business. What are you talking about for leadership? You leading the people around you, your significant person, your family, your kids, your coworkers, your boss even, right? How do we lead within ourselves in a way that is also compassionate and loving towards others? This is how. This is where we begin to see the opportunities. And this is where the resources, we are not in a vacuum. And thank goodness, right? I don't plan on sitting around by myself and judging all of these things. Other people have components of this. I'm going to go find it, but then my leadership will be making it my own, right? And that's where the interplay of internally led and external resources is where the money's at. Because that combination's gold. That gets you moving and transforming faster than anything else. And you'll hear that in the 5-day challenge. You'll hear that in the series as you're listening along. You'll hear all these components, and we're going to be doing subconscious reprogramming all along the way. So, limited dreamer, if you are relating to this is also a very exciting place to be. Even if in the moment we know that we're not comfortable in that box, it leads to some amazing things when we can have the awareness to know that this is where we're at and take the actions to move it. Really, really excited for you. Really excited to see what happens after the 5 days, because changing that perspective, you can't not change. You literally can't, because when the thoughts and the emotions shift and therefore impact your actions, no one can stop you. And that's a beautiful thing. All right, that's it for part 5. I'll see you next time.
Thanks for coming out to hang with us on the podcast. It is our goal to transform the way women are treated in healthcare. And we need your help. We need your help to get the word out. We have a lofty goal of 1 million downloads. And we know that as this podcast grows, we're going to be able to reach more women, get more amazing speakers for you, and bring the most cutting-edge information.
If you found these pod classes helpful, please take a moment to text 5 women you know the link to the series. We appreciate your help so much. Can't wait to see you next time.